Welcome to the top custom Hearthstone cards of the week, number 4. We are now a month into the series, which is crazy. Time is just flying by, but let's just get right into it. First card this week is Infestation. It is a 4-mana rogue spell that says deal 2 damage, draw 2 cards, gain 2 armor, and summon a 2/2 Nerubian. And this is obviously a throwback to Ultimate Infestation, which was a 10-mana Druid spell with the same effect, just higher numbers from back in the day. And it is crazy to think this was a meta-defining card. Ultimate Infestation was hugely played. It was a very, very good card. And by today's standard, it's just not great. There's been a couple times I've randomly generated this card in Wild a few times, and it just doesn't feel very good to play nowadays. And I'm not really sure why this is a rogue card. The original Ultimate Infestation is a Druid card, so it makes sense for this to be another Druid card. So that's one thing I would change right off the bat. But like I said, it just doesn't seem that good. Ultimate Infestation hasn't aged very well at all, and I don't think this mini version would really see play either. But you have to give it credit for it being a cool idea and a nice throwback to an original classic card. And next up, we have Fortitude. It is a 3-mana Druid spell that reads choose twice, refresh 3 mana crystals, summon a 2/2 Treant, or give your hero +2 attack this turn. And this is another card that's throwing back to an old Druid card, this time being Branching Paths, which was another choose twice card, which, funny enough, I just saw a post on Reddit recently that apparently Branching Paths is the only instance of choose twice ever being used in the game. So definitely there's an area of opportunity there to make more cards like that, and that's one reason I picked this card this week. But overall, I just don't think the balance of this card is all there. The refresh 3 mana crystals is obviously the strongest of the 3 choices. Summoning a 2/2 Treant is fine. Giving your hero +2 attack isn't great. 3 mana +4 attack really sucks. So I do think the vast majority of this time, this would essentially be played as a 3 mana refresh 3 mana crystals. For this card to see any kind of play, the text would have to be rebalanced quite a bit. I think the 3 mana crystal refresh is fine. I just think the other 2 choices need to be buffed up a bit to make the choice less obvious. So this card definitely gets a gold star for, choosing a keyword and mechanic that has only been used once in the game, apparently. So I'm very, very surprised they haven't used it since, and hopefully they do, because I think it's a fun design. I think Branching Paths is a very cool card because it can be used so many different ways. And Branching Paths is an example of balancing this effect, right? There's plenty of times I've played this card to, sometimes, sure, you draw twice, or you gain 12 armor, or you give your minions +2 attack. But there's been plenty of other times where you do one and the other, you mix and match them. But how would you balance this card? What would you change with the Treant choice or the attack choice to make it competitive with the mana refreshing choice? Post in the comments and let me know. Next up, we have Piloted Polluter. It is a 6-mana 6/8 warrior minion with Taunt and Death Rattle. Gain 8 armor. You can't draw cards next turn. And on one hand, this is a very, very strong anti-aggro tool. A 6/8 Taunt for 6 mana that gives you 8 armor is great for, stalling out a board and giving you a bit of survivability. But the downside on it is potentially backbreaking. If you play this card and your hand is mostly full, it's not really a downside. More than likely you'll have some cards in your hand to follow up with the next turn. But if you're top decking or you only have 1 or 2 cards in hand, this could set you back so much. So while I do think this is a really cool design, Warrior is my favorite class, and I love anti-aggro and control decks. So in that regard, it gets a big thumbs up from me. But I think the downside is just it's too volatile. You'll have games where it doesn't really mean anything, but then you'll have some other games where you'll really wish you didn't put this card in your deck. But it is a neat design. I would like to see this text used in some way on some card. It's just, like I said, so backbreaking potentially depending on the situation. And next up, we have a neutral card. It is Gloomborn Thrasher. It is a 3-mana 3/4 minion that has, after you cast a spell, shuffle a copy of it into your deck that casts when drawn. And I have to say, some of the cards I've highlighted in previous videos, while they're very interesting designs, I can't really see them existing in the game. But this is a card that I can see this card existing in the game 100%. I will say, though, I think this is maybe too strong of an effect to be a neutral card. I think there's some classes that could really abuse this, but I could see this in the game as some kind of class card 100%. The effect is just very clean, very simple. It's very similar to some effects that already exist in the game, right? I think that's one reason, it feels right at home and it feels like a card I could see in the game. But let me know in the comments, if this card was a neutral, what class would would break it? You know, what are some of the crazy combos you can pull off that someone smarter than me watching can figure out? And next up, we have Curse of Annihilation. It is a 3-mana Death Knight spell that says, given a random minion in your opponent's hand and deck, secretly battlecry die. And I have to say, man, there's been some banger Death Knight cards the last few weeks. I think this is the 3rd video in a row that's had a super interesting Death Knight card. And I think part of it might be because Death Knight is just so new to the game. There's less cards and things that have been explored with the class, so it just means there's a lot more area of opportunity to design cool cards. And I think this is a perfect example of that. I think this is a really neat effect. You know, some people in the comments I read equated this card to Objection, but I wouldn't really say that's the case, considering whatever minion gets affected by this, it still will get its battle cries off, it'll still get its death rattles off. You know, if this hits a minion that you want to stay on the board, maybe it has some kind of persistent effect that is important to a combo or important to your deck. Obviously, this disrupts it, but if it hits a minion that all you care about is the battle cry or the death rattle, this really doesn't hurt you that much. Yeah, you lose the body, but you still get the effect. I will say, though, the one negative I think to this card is I feel like it should have some kind of rune requirement. I don't know, maybe 2 blood or 1 blood, 1 unholy, but it feels a little bit too naked in a way without runes. You know, I feel like this shouldn't just fit into every single Death Knight deck. But do you agree, disagree? What runes do you think would make sense on a card like this? And for the last card, we have Xuen, the White Tiger. And I'm probably saying that name wrong, but it is a 6-mana 5/4 legendary Druid minion that has choose 1, upgrade your hero power, or make it cost 1. So obviously super versatile card. You know, this is essentially Gen or Baku built into a card, except you know, you have to play this card before it takes effect. It's just not just from the start of the game. So I think that offsets the versatility of it a bit. You know, Gen and Baku, obviously very, very strong effects to the point where they were removed from standard early. But the downside with this card is that the effect doesn't happen until you play this card, right? It's not just at the start of the game for free. And me personally, I love Hero Power Druid. Some of the cards that have come out for it recently, I think are really, really fun. And I don't know, there's just something about making a deck where you're the win condition. I think that's just a very interesting and different take on the game. Although I will say that I feel like making your hero power cost 1 is probably the better option in most situations. I'm not a Druid player really for the most part, so if I'm wrong, let me know. Also, this might be a hot take, but I really like start of game effects, and I hope they bring out more cards like Gen and Baku. Don't shoot the messenger, but I just think it's a very interesting design space. That'll be all the cards this week. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, give the video a like and leave a comment. Let me know what was your favorite card this week. Other than that, though, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.